Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of In Pursuit of a Parlay, Season 2, Episode 21. And as I do at the start of every show, I just want to thank you all for the continued support, for helping make this show grow every single week. It's awesome, it's amazing, and both of those things apply to all of you as well. If you are checking us out on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to us on Spotify or the podcast provider of your choice, be sure to rate, review, comment, do all of that good stuff. Be part of the show, not just a bystander, unless that's what you want. Oh, we gotta adjust this a little bit right here today. We're not filling out the screen as well as we should be, but all is well. So we've got a huge week in sports. The Conference Championship. How did we get here? Conference Championship round in the National Football League. We got a big weekend of NBA action on the docket as well, and we're going to go with 2 Conference Championship games. We've got 4 NBA games. Let's get right to it. What do you say? As always, I have bovadasportsbook.com open in front of me for all of our lines. Conference Championship football. The San Francisco 49ers head to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a 2.5 point line on the open. Eagles giving 2.5. We're showing Philly's going to win this one about 60% of the time outright. The game scares the hell out of me, guys. It scares the hell out of me as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. The 49ers, 13-4. They finished the season first place in the NFC West. Big win over the Cowboys last week, where their defense just led the way. Brock Purdy did enough to win. This is an outstanding football team, a team that was really making its case as the best team in the NFC as the regular season wound down. They're 13th in the NFL in passing yards, 8th in rushing yards, 138.8 per game, 6th in the NFL in points for 26.5 per game. And the number 1 defense in the National Football League, points against, giving up just 16.3 points per game. Heading to Philadelphia, they are the number 1 seed in the NFC when it was all said and done. 14-3, they won the NFC East. The 9th best passing offense, the 5th best rushing offense at 147.6 per game. They score 28.1 points per game, which is 3rd in the NFL during the regular season, and give up 20.2, which is good for 8th in the National Football League, all led by Jalen Hurts. But that is the question, is how healthy is Jalen Hurts right now? Are we getting 75% of Jalen Hurts? 80% of Jalen Hurts? I think one of those numbers, that range, is probably pretty accurate. We're showing Philadelphia is going to cover this line about 55% of the time. And in this case, I think we all know where I'm going. We're looking at the -2 is a -120 at Bovada. We don't need that. There's no reason we need to stress out about an insignificant amount of points here. We are going to take the Eagles money line -145. At Bovada for our first pick of this parlay right here. Sorry, catching up on stuff. I can't stress this enough, just how scared I am about this game. The 49ers are an outstanding team with weapons like Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk. Juszczyk is so underrated. On that offense, I don't think you should take them for granted, and I feel like there is some taking them for granted in the national media. We'll see what Philadelphia does. Now, the 49ers gave up 16.3 points per game, the Eagles 20.2. This line is 46.5. That's a 10-point cushion. We hit 2 for 2 on unders last week, and I think we're going to under this one as well. That'll be our second pick of this parlay for this week. We're going to take the under 46.5 -110 at Bovada to move our parlay up to +223, 2 picks in. Let's move to the AFC Championship game. Cincinnati Bengals at the Kansas City Chiefs, pardon me. And what a ridiculous situation we're seeing in this game. It seems like the Bengals are doing everything humanly possible to provide bulletin board material for this Kansas City team, whether it's the Eli Apple nonsense, whether it's the team referring to Arrowhead as Burrowhead Stadium. I think they're going to regret this one. It's the hubris of youth. The hubris of a very, very young and inexperienced team that had already a ton of success in the playoffs last year. They're going to regret this. We're showing Kansas City's going to win this one outright about 2/3 of the time. Cincinnati was 12-4. They won the AFC North. Joe Burrow took another step this year. They're 5th in the NFL in passing yards per game at 265, but almost last. They're 29th out of 32 teams in rushing yards per game, 95.5 running yards per game. The game plan for Kansas City obviously has to be to force them to beat them on the ground, make Joe Mixon a problem, make the rest of that team do something they're not comfortable with. Cincinnati can score the ball, 7th in the NFL in points for 26.1, 6th in the NFL, points against 20.1. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, 14-3, first place in the AFC West, coming off of a win over the Jaguars. It seemed like they handled their business, is what I'll say. I think we propped the Jaguars up a little bit, but that's not the Chiefs' fault. What a season for soon-to-be MVP Patrick Mahomes. 5,250 passing yards to go along with 41 touchdowns. They are the best passing team in the NFL. 297.8 per game, first in the league. 20th in rushing. First in points for 29.2 points per game. 16th points against 21.7. So we're showing Cincinnati covers this one a little bit more often than not. And I will tell you, I don't buy it. I know sometimes you have to go against the numbers, and this is going to be one of those cases. Third pick of this parlay, and I feel good about it. We're going to take Kansas City money line, minus 125 at Bovada for our third pick. And then we're going to look at this over-under here. You've got teams that score 55.3 points per game. You got a 48-point money line. They're 48 point money line. Teams give up 41.7 per game. Unders pay, but I do think this is going to be an over. I think this is an over situation. I think we're going to see a lot of points scored. I'm going to take the over 48 at minus 110 at Bovada for our fourth pick in this parlay. And our final NFL pick until, I guess, the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks. That's crazy. That doesn't even feel right. That doesn't sound right. But it is, in fact, right. All right, let's move on to the NBA. Pull this stuff down here. We do not care about any of this. NBA matchups. We're looking Milwaukee Bucks. We're looking at the Indiana Pacers. Bucks are going to win this one about 70% of the time outright. Giannis is day-to-day. Portis is out. But the important thing here, Tyrese Halliburton is out for the Pacers, and they're a completely different team without him in the lineup. The Bucks 31-17, first place in the Central Division, one of the best records in the Eastern Conference. Giannis leads the way at 31 points per game. For the Pacers, 24-26, better season than we expected, but the wheels have come off a little bit. They've lost 5, 6, 7, 8 of their last 9 games, only with a win against the reeling Bulls team. They just don't look good without Tyrese Halliburton in the lineup. And he's been magical. 20.2 points per game, 10.2 assists per game. Leads them in both categories. Breakout superstar, Tyrese Halliburton. Get healthy soon. We're showing the Bucks are going to cover this one about 65% of the time. It's a big line, but I do feel good about it. Bucks are trying to climb their way back up to the top of the Eastern Conference. Pacers are really playing for nothing. A loss is probably a positive for the Pacers at this point. We're going to take Bucks minus 8.5, minus 110 at Bovada for our 5th pick of this parlay this week. And that's going to bring the number all the way up to plus 2,016. Our next NBA game, right here, Memphis Grizzlies, Minnesota Timberwolves. 2 fun teams. Memphis has been an incredible watch. They're one of the league pass musts of this season. There are some injuries. Steven Adams is out. Desmond Bane's day-to-day. Cat's out on the Timberwolves side. Gobert day-to-day. We are showing it's pretty much a coin flip with a slight favor to the Memphis Grizzlies in terms of outright victory. Grizzlies 31-17, first place in the Southwest Division. Team John Morant, 27.3 points per game, 8 assists per game, and just, super duper star status for Mr. Morant. From Minnesota, 25-25, 500 record, 50 games through. Anthony Edwards leads the team in scoring at 24.5. D'Angelo Russell, who is very firmly on the trade block, 6.2 assists, leads the way. We're showing Memphis covers about 60% of the time. I think that's probably right here. But we're looking at a minus 110 versus a minus 160 for the money line at Bovada, and that's the direction we're going to go. We'll take Memphis money line for our 6th pick of this parlay. And we've brought the number up to plus 3,339. Next game, Orlando Magic at the Miami Heat, 8 o'clock Friday night. We're showing the Heat are going to win this one about 70% of the time outright. Orlando is 29 losses to 19 wins. 19-29 is how normal people would say that. And they're in 4th place in the Southeast Division behind Washington, Atlanta, and Miami. In front of Charlotte, though. They have that going for them. This has been basically the showcase season for Paolo Banchero, the league's number 1 pick in the draft, is averaging 20.8 points per game to go along with 3.8 assists, which leads the Magic in terms of qualified participants. This Magic team, I'll tell you though, beat the Celtics a couple of nights ago, beat the Pelicans, tough game against the Nuggets, tough 3-point loss against the Nuggets a couple games back. The record doesn't show that they're competitive, and I really do think this is a competitive team. Jonathan Isaac is out. He will not play. He's on extreme rest at this point, coming back from 908 days between NBA games. For Miami, they're 27-22. They're in first place in the Southeast Division. Bam Adebayo leads the team in scoring at 21.6. Kyle Lowry, 5.4 assists per game. We're showing that the Heat are going to cover this one about 61% of the time. I'm not there. I don't think Magic win this one outright, but I think Magic can cover the 8. So we're going to take Orlando plus 8, minus 110 at Bovada for our 7th pick of this parlay. And that's going to bring our number up to plus 64.65. $100 wins $6,465. Not bad. But as we do every show, I like to remind you all, hitting on a parlay, especially a parlay that's this big, is incredibly difficult. That's the reason the numbers go as high as they do. So you take the picks you like from me. Don't listen. This is not me preaching here. This is just me offering advice. You take the picks you like from me, you combine it with the stuff you like yourself, and that's what you go with. Do not just blindly listen to Chris Horwedel. I can't tell you how many people in my life would reiterate that advice. Our final game of this parlay this week, the Toronto Raptors in Golden State to take on the Golden State Warriors, in California to take on the Golden State Warriors in the Golden State. Bovada has the Warriors -5 to open this one up. And that's an interesting line for two teams that are tough to really figure out who they are this year. We're showing Golden State's going to win this one about 60% of the time. The Raptors are 22-27, 5th place, 5th and dead last in the Atlantic Division. Pascal Siakam leads the team in points with 25.2 and assists with 6.5. A lot of talk that that they could be blowing this team up. Gary Trent's on the block. Van Vliet's on the block. OG Anunoby's on the block. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Pascal Siakam gets traded. This is not the Raptors team from a couple years ago when Kawhi Leonard led the way. The Warriors are 24-24. Surprising record, though. They're in very much take it easy mode with injuries and stuff like that. 4th place in the Pacific Division. Tied for 3rd, but I'm going to call it 4th because Phoenix is 25-25, Golden State 24-24. So we're going to call it 4th place in the Pacific Division. Of qualified players, Jordan Poole leads the team in scoring at 21.2 points per game, but he's shooting only 43% from the field. Draymond, the leading rebounder, 6.8 per game. It's just a matter of who the Warriors suit up on any given day. And that's what scares me for this one. I do think the Warriors are the better team. We're showing that they're going to cover about 55 to 60% of the time. But you just don't know who they're going to play. And that's why we're going to end this one on a safe note. We'll take the Warriors to win, but only the money line, minus 210 at Bovada for our 8th and final pick of this parlay this week. Going to bring the total up to plus 9,071. We actually had some live movement right there. The KC odds just went from minus 125 to minus 120. So we picked up a couple of points here at the end. That is going to be it for this week's episode of In Pursuit of a Parlay. I have been Chris Horwedel. Thank you so much for your continued support. Pretty please keep it up, and we'll see you back here next week.